So let's look at a workflow. This is a workflow that I've begun to create for my process of creating a new blog post for my blog, Stacking the Bricks, from idea to publication. Now, when you start out to make a workflow, it's very tempting to act as if the task is much simpler than it actually is. So, for example, my first 4 steps here, I've created cards in this workflow. Our idea, write, format, and publish. Wouldn't it be nice if creating a new blog post was only 4 steps? But realistically speaking, there are some hidden steps here that I'm going to now add to show you how to use the rest of the workflow. So one thing that I forgot to do in my tentative baby workflow is research or gather quotes. So I always like to quote people or books or link to other websites or anything like that to support the points that I am trying to make. So I'll add that I should add some research. Are there any research papers on the topic? You'd be surprised at what I dig up. Any relevant quotes from readers or people on the internet? Book or other resources to link to? Even an excerpt from my own product, perhaps? And I'm not going to assign this to anyone because this is a very simple workflow. Currently, I am going to be the person who does all of the steps. So create a card. Now you see that it added the card at the end, which is, of course, the last place you want to do the research. You want to do it up here. So I'm going to move it, just drag and drop. So now we have idea, which could just be a really quick topic idea, like write about productivity versus mountain climbing. I don't know. That's actually in my ideas list somewhere. I could do some research, and then I can write, format, and publish. But I am not a super person. Oftentimes I write crap. And so this should actually be write draft, or maybe just draft. Draft. I'll just put draft as a verb. I'm going to add a quote here from Hemingway, which is one of my favorites, write drunk, edit sober. I oftentimes find that actually writing a little bit tipsy helps if I'm stuck. Not going to suggest that one always drinks when writing, however, which means now I need to add an edit or revise stage. Hemingway. So I'm just adding funny little comments here, but this area right here is a great place to add actual documentation. You can include screenshots, you can include links to videos or embed videos. You can include information that references your help desk or your internal tools or your internal processes here. And in fact, I'm going to show you how that works. So I'm going to edit format because, oops, I didn't put revise where it belongs. There we go. So format is going to be format in Markdown. And I often forget what the Markdown format is like. So I'm going to search for a cheat sheet and I'm going to link to it here. Oops. I apparently fail at copy and paste. There we go. There we go. So I can link to documentation. Publishing is actually a little bit complicated because of the tool that we use to publish the blog, which is Nanoc, a Ruby static site generator, plus a whole bunch of custom stuff. So I'm going to add another card here for tagging. Because tagging is very important in the way that we use our blog. We have a whole custom tagging system that we implemented. It's somewhat complicated and it's extremely useful. And I actually made a video that shows how to do it. So be sure to use this video to correctly categorize and tag each new post, article, or guide. And I'll just paste that in there and it will automatically embed the video. Tagging, of course, comes before publishing. And when you do publish with our tool, it's a multi-step process. So I'm going to just add the barest, simplest checklist here. So git pull, git commit, git pull, git push, wait for deployment with netlify, netlify, there we go. Check for errors, resolve errors if needed. If stuck, contact Thomas. So these are not very specific instructions. They don't really explain step by step how to do it, because if you don't know how to git commit, if you don't already have access to the repo, like there's all this stuff that could be fleshed out as either another workflow, like an onboarding workflow. If we were to add an editor to our team, I could have an onboarding workflow that would actually train them how to do all of these things. Or if I just wanted someone else on my team who already has Git and already has access to handle publishing my new post, I could give this to them and it would be probably enough information for them to try it. So you can always go back and revise your workflows and add more documentation. Use it for just fleshing out the idea and then revise as needed. And then this becomes essentially your operations manual, as well as a working, usable checklist to go through. So we have idea, research, draft, revise, format and markdown, tagging, publish. Now, I was thinking whether I should add a new card here, which would be to promote the blog post. I am thinking about signing up for one of those Twitter apps that will continuously retweet various valuable things that are on your site, for example, like Edgar. And so I might add a tag. If I do that, I'll add a card here for like, add this article to Edgar and put it in the rotation. Things like that. You can expand it as you go, and really it can grow with you. But now I think I'm done. And now that I want to start a blog post, I want to capture that idea I mentioned earlier. I'm going to click Start New Board. The button's a little ambiguous. We're working on all of these interface things. We're going to polish them all up. But right now, I'm going to start a new workflow board, which will create a new blog post using this workflow template. So I'm going to call my blog post the mountain theory. And I'm going to write down that thing I'd mentioned to you earlier. So the idea is that an idea many people have is that the harder they work at something, the better it is. But if your goal is to get to the top of the mountain, you don't get extra credit for trying to walk straight up a sheer cliff face. Most people zig and zag up a high grade in order to arrive at the top alive with enough energy to get back down again. I actually made a doodle for this. I should have taken a photo of it so I could add it. But here's my idea. I will create the board. Now I'm in the mountain theory board and I can start going through these steps. So I have my idea, so I can check that off. Now it's time for me to do the research, the draft, to revise the draft, format and markdown, tag and publish. Now, when I go back to blog post, I can see all of the blog posts that I have in progress. So what's really cool about Sweep is our goal is to give you things automatically that other products make you manage or produce by hand. One of those things is Kanban. When you create a workflow and you apply that workflow to create multiple things using that workflow, you get automatically Kanban. So I can see that this blog, I only have one blog post right now. It's called The Mountain Theory, but I'm already in the idea stage. And then once I'm done my research, I can check that off from here. And I can see what's left, and I can see the various blog posts that would be in different stages. It's so awesome. And I can go straight to it from here. I can say, this doesn't need any research. I know everything. It's not true, but for sake of argument. And I can see my notes as I completed it. So awesome. And now I don't have to drag cards around in Kanban, which is the most annoying thing and why Kanbans usually fall behind. So I hope that this tour, very basic tour of our workflow functionality, is helpful. If you have any questions whatsoever, please contact support. Amy, Thomas Fuchs, and Thomas Cannon, our team would be delighted to help you figure out the answer for your specific situation.